Gobo took Jay, Madame Jay, Boston, Bobos, and I am the Tegi lost up the lot of Pato, Jatavi, Jackie, told it, or you took that you chulo of the law, told it, travel like that. Flopatala of the Jagan, my own DJ, get you loyal songs are low, it or Jay. Ma babella chiche kaba ba pama do ba java do ba ka ju lo mono lo so wa de mo ko cho tam se cho ja sang ke ya de ba de ke be be dai ko za jo ba da de le ja lo de je lo mo so wa de ko jo tam je de ma zam ba la nga ka ba so je se ja be ya de de je ru me de de chu je da we yo lo so wa de na si nam da de chi je ko le ku ji da ni la ma che ma Garchen Rinpoche chapter Dorje Johnson to Sajo Lobje to Jizo Sadano was a page of the another than Rohama. So the Jin Joga Chibi Dorje Jolas or the Mo Kataju number of Palota de Jito Jigo. Requio de Jin Lamajo, Dorje Jolas over the Salata Pajejoa. Tomorrow, Josa, the Turkey Josa House of Benjamin, that's only 20 members, legend by your something like that. Chichi. Not so before Javajilas or as if you don't know yet that you know about children in the so. The paper should ought some jelly. The paper to get check
to all the Dhamma brothers and sisters who have come here today, I'd like to thank you very much and wish you Dashi Delek.
Dini Kangina Dini Tabi Chushiba Dini Kangde Ma Namka Dani Besipji Tamchi Dini Deva Tan Dibi Che Dunge Tan Travi Che Dini Asola Zabelinga Mate Dini Kamsam Simpi Tamchi Lengi Yore Ole Dini Pedi Sam Jimachava Tonchimbo Sa Chimbo Dini Rete Decent Dini Osade Sachuk Simon Boche Ole Kamsam Simpi Tamchi Mata Poyan Dishijile Yamsuli Jetela Tabi Chujire Decent Dini Sama Tuke Che
What is sublime Dharma? Sublime Dharma is about Mother Sentient beings, wishing all Mother Sentient beings in the space, wishing them happiness and causes of happiness, wishing them to part with suffering and causes of sufferings. When we do this, we are not only talking about Mother Sentient beings on this planet, we are talking about Mother Sentient beings of the three realms of existence. And for them, and on behalf of them, we generate loving kindness and compassion. This is indeed a big responsibility, and it is a big task. When we generate loving kindness and compassion, we do so like mother does towards her children. I want to thank you very much.
Dini Tia di Tambi Chula, Dini Kepadam is Songlan, Sobjang Hasum, Lamjanaba, Tang Mambo Yere, Yenaya, Tatuk, Dini, Sobjang Hasum, Botini, Lamdung Chipari, the Tamje, there's a sharp Chechong Wangboram, Mato, Jebetini, Tatuk Sanjeg Sanaroji, Muyerte. 사제가 살았으나 가래 배도 요리들 샘지 탐제를 핀바들지 체드 라도 많이 봐 나바 사제가 따베 망게 되래 무요양 되래 되는 레베양 되래 인도나 되는 핀도로 되는 되래.
When we discuss sublime Dharma, the most informed and the scholarly ones can talk a great deal about the Dharma. They can give you a whole lot of teachings on the different classification of the yanas, self-liberation, bodhisattva, vehicle and the tantric vehicle. And there are many, many different paths leading to omniscience. But if you think about the ultimate goal, it does not matter which category you belong. The ultimate aim is same, and that aim is omniscience. The reason why we have different levels of teachings is to suit the different intelligence levels or different capacity of the superior being, intermediate being, and the mediocre being. So whatever group of category one belongs, the one common denominator is that all aim to reach omniscience. Why do we do that? In order to benefit sentient beings. So therefore we can say that in all cases we have one goal, one result, and one benefit.
다베는 저리 출룩 라마다 당미 바이어레 대탑지야 이제는 뭐여지 바래 강의는지라 대와탄 디비치 등에당 자위체레 탐시 뭐여지 바래 근데 연아야 변했더니 가시게 남바 사제 바데 치러바 라마다들이 좀다 소리 라마다 쌍거요래 대양 내 값제 소소라는 건 전랑이 마도 주제배 들이 이제 대화식 분유 모친이 대화식 바데 상계를 제거 요래 상계의 강내 송들의 샘을 송거 요래 샘이 이제도 샘도 용의 상계가 저 요리 참마 상계가 되니 저지 된리래
On this planet, in this world, there are countless number of different religions, and all have one goal, and one goal only, and that goal is to have happiness and causes of happiness, and to get rid of suffering and causes of sufferings. In that regard, we all have one goal. Then there are those belonging to the Buddhist. There are those who are belonging to other faiths. And there are those who are sectarian. And this kind of sectarian attitude is a temporary delusion, because the ground of all sentient being is what is called the Sugata Garva, or essence of those who have blissfully passed into parinirvana, talking about the Buddha nature. And all these Buddhas, they became Buddhahood from the nature of mind.
Tini 대양 소소디 람데라 맵조르당 집에 효 무족 지체발에 배나 람데는 맵조르당 집에 효나 tini 녀도 상계제 살아로 요래 람데는 마족로 대다 배는 상계제랑 걸고 요래 올래 탑톡대 상마제 바 직자가 내 좋고요 뭐 정말 상계제 얘네한테 람르지 납세돼서 제발요 람데를 효나 상계 녀그 요래 tini 올래 tini 람은 마족로 대서 배나 코와는 내가 저는 말람답은 틀리대서 내게요. 뒤쳐봐요래.
The difference between Buddhist and non-Buddhist is how much effort one puts in reaching omniscience. If you do not walk the path to omniscience, and then obviously it will take a little while longer to reach omniscience. If you walk the path to omniscience, then it will be expeditious. Ultimately, of course, all sentient beings will reach enlightenment. If you do not enter the path of Dharma, then it will take some time in samsara, and when in samsara, one will be deluded.
Number some song young, Tayang Penako, Yetchik Pare, Pena, Tambo New Metal, Tini Gamba, Tini Metal Kacheva, Deson Pena, Tini Tambo Lamin Penako, Nimoba, Panam, Ole, Tini Parde Tini, Ole, Cordia Chutam, they looked at a dawn at Tini Ole, Sancho Seven Bochin and Nimoba, Tini, Jervalam. Tini Tato Sangha, Tini, Numoba Ramjime by Shiba, the Shiba Lam, the Lamsum, the Rebbe, and the Tini, Kaza take a Julia Yonti, the Rebbe Zoko, the tea, Lavrin Basam Tini. Tini, and the day, not the Jamba Chechong, the tea, and the chick, say Hamby Jamba Chechong, the bay, Tini Tatachi, Juram, bring some the Tini, Sungu Chirap Chechong, the real Tini, Sungu Tini, Tabla Kepichu Battery, Mambo Sungu Yore, Ramada Yore.
There are three different paths, but one ground. It is kind of likened to a flower. First, you have to have a shoot growing, and then it turns into a bud. Then bud blooms and become a fully bloom flower. So, in terms of practicing Dharma, first you have to get rid of or abandon afflictive emotions. And gradually, when you become a seasoned practitioner, then you have to transform your afflictive emotions. And then as you advance, then it is the understanding of the nature of all afflictive emotions, which being the flip side of wisdom. So those will be the three different levels of understanding and practice Dharma. All these three levels are there in order to suit the temperament and mental capacity of individuals. So these are the different skillful methods available for the practitioners of different calibers.
Tini Terena, Tini, Marangisi, you Karayan, Tini, Wangasiji, should call it. They put a keyboard to pay, just for accept the song bay. The one to the one the as a remated and Royori. Tambo, one cardinal, one chair wrong, chong wrong, Tambo, Tamdu come the penna, or Lumayas and Magiva to the Pang, give a show that he, Sotarga Domba. Tini deep on it, Tini, Sancho was several much Machina, somehow the third and Maron song. The Kangina, Dungata, dancing in Benatini, Jimping along Machina, Dungil, Georgia, this and the Nibena. or 산족 셈질 뭐지 제거래 산족 셈 뭐지 인핑을 노래 이 바드 산족 셈지 왕참질라 데라 산족 셈지 변족 이제 핀 산족 셈고 연디 진발라 넘바 셈지데 드니 데는 무슨 용디 신은 무슨랑은 육바라더니 육바 셈지 변족 이 송네 드니 상하 왕의 동호 되게요래 왕 넘바 드니 레지
My own topic of discussion for this particular session is about empowerment. And even in empowerment, we have those kind of different paths to suit different individuals. Whether it is a big empowerment or a small empowerment, at the time of taking refuge, one has to abandon or do away with afflictive emotions. and try to put your mind into thinking virtuous thoughts, which calls for the self-liberation vow. And then we have the bodhicitta mind generation. Without bodhicitta in one's mind stream, one is not fit to receive tantric empowerment. And if one does not have an altruistic mind, which is by definition to benefit others, one will not be able to liberate from suffering. So when we talk in terms of generation of bodhicitta, we're talking about two different bodhicittas. One is the aspirational bodhicitta, and one is action or applied bodhicitta. Aspirational bodhicitta deals with the wonderful qualities of altruistic mind or bodhicitta. Applied bodhicitta is actually putting into practice the aspiration that you begin with. And once you have both the aspirational and applied bodhicittas in your mind stream, then you can be introduced to the tantric empowerment.
Teni teyanga teni di tsawa mangji tamroni dogo yore. Kachi nyungshe lala chige di sangha ga wangne shunde ye jamdu domba ne shunde me nangba konglo nodo me teri samni kachi yore. Te pena ta pukchung chung samno nangjire gangi la lam dela sobzang hasam ge lam la jokbo na 상계를 막 띵지 남도 세적이 쉬어 말해 남도 정말 상계 그 띵이요래 사지 좀 띵지 야 사지 좀 띵지 취대 송이야나 오디这个 롭네 들이 소소 동의를 좋네 들이 진 좋아 탑도 거지 남대면은 취되는 사지송 사지가 깔아 띵 거요래 대 취래 오 취송 약바담 그 핀도요 말 대응 갖다 보면 안 좋은 애 저기 배는 들이지나 대담 그 핑거 말 낭바 사지에 비춘데 당부 취 들이 바드티 동나로 삼로 땅네 들이 타마디 동대를 아주 생부도 무슨 또네 들이 취삼 감도 섬만 좀나 고래 쪽보게 핑거요 말에 디선들이 디 냠서 랑네 들라게 줄라 또네 오 랑이 치체네 드니 제네 진의 동은 오 나라 핀송 다들 지금 민들들이 저 핀절에 대 동무들 겐드르 변나 되는 상기를 잡 출을 람 겐드르 줘대 다다다 상기 쫀디데네 주베들이 라마 개위신이 탐게 겐드르 변나 디선들이 꼰조 섬들 마티나 드니 상sem다 상하니 고는 죽지 싸와니 여 말에 변나 들이 차들에 돼
You have to start with refuge. Some people aspire to receive tantric empowerment, but they are not so keen or they do not wish to receive refuge ordination. This is kind of the mentality of small children. Self-liberation, bodhisattva, and tantric vows or tantric ordinations, these are only known to the omniscient Buddha, no one else. These levels of teachings were the teachings of Gautama Buddha. So you have first the Buddha, and then his teachings. And teachings are imparted on us by those who have already liberated themselves and who are able to show or to lead on to the path to omniscience. So it is not sufficient to just give an audible teaching, a bunch of teachings and make it, just listening alone and imparting an academic teaching is not enough. In Buddhist teaching, you have to first, quote and unquote, hear the teachings. And then you have to reflect upon what you have learned. And finally, you have to take that teaching and meditate on it. The hearing alone is not enough. When you actually practice, and when you have an experiential understanding of what you practice, and only then one is able to share that experience with others. A patient who had taken certain medicines and got healed, and that patient can effectively relate to others the kind of medication that is necessary to heal certain ailments based on his or her own experience. So the Buddha is the protector, Dharma is the path, and Sangha is the companion to walk the path to omniscience. And starting from the Buddha right down to your Lama, all are classified as Sangha. And without taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, one will simply not be able to practice Dharma effectively, let alone become the right kind of vessel to contain tantric teachings.
Tene da jabzu sumle pena tene da ri yele sebji tamche jerchik ji morangi je yore na tene de yang pena na mabjana saje mato ba jana to pa ti tong gare je ra mabjana ta ge zongwa yola de pa semje dibe tene yumo ba da nam to de da ra tamche de la demban jine tene pena khwalen changwe yore tene yumo ba da nam to de kha ma de la jerchik ni bo khwan sangje yin long tene pena ko chö nyoma ji je chö de sujang dong de mo de chu che de mo de be ju dong de ma da ba na yi chö de ga pena ko sangje ge jo yin de be ju dong ya me ba sem khwan sangje ge je yin yumo ba da ma de na tene ra dong la chu ge ja sa ka ni yin ge be ju dong ya ole tene dong je me ba di san le tene pena da dang ba je go yo re de.
If you take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then we know that our nature is the Buddha nature, or we have what is called the Sugata Garva. And then we need to practice in order to reach any level of realization. If we do not make that effort, we will not achieve any kind of realization. If we do make that effort, we have the capability to reach liberation. Right now in samsara, we have this dualistic idea of self and others, afflictive emotions, and all conceptual thoughts. We treat them as having a kind of subject and object dualism. And in that dualism, we have grasping. We treat it as independently existing and real. Consequently, we are in samsara. So therefore, in order to reach omniscience, there is the need to filter out the afflictive emotions and conceptual thoughts. to use an example, it'll be something like bucket of water. When a bucket of water is polluted with a great deal of sediments, bring a stick and stir it up, and then see if it is fit for human consumption, you'll find that it is not. Likewise, if that Sugata Garva or the Buddha nature is completely obscured with layers and layers of obscurations, and that Buddha nature is not going to be able to manifest its radiance. So, in order to attain the Dharmakaya state of Buddhahood, one has to then filter out all these afflictive emotions and conceptual thoughts.
오, 들이다 상지 이제 까니 남지 초대다 조고 상지 이제 드린 적디는 시랍 치고 올래 적디be 시랍 따고 많이만 적디 내비 시랍 들이 상지 대다 동해 종하는 개봐야 된다. 들이 상지에 뭐 좀 탑데 다나 생균이 뭐 좀 탑데 사지 좀지 되네 다 띵요래. 들이 되게 상지에는 시랍 치모래지. 그 샘지 담지 몽바래지. 샘지에 담지 가래는 몽리더라. 등에 먹고는 등에 쪄대 빵 마시네. 등에 쪄라는 좋고요래. 대와 고는 대와 저 마시네. 대와 저 강리 삼년지 이병으로 제 마시. 올래. 다 나한테 주고 저 왕대성들이 대와도 동아래라 중대들이 대라. 노빠다 듭제들이 신절로 지연들이 들이 차요래.
In this world, human beings put in a great deal of effort in order to get rid of the external sufferings. And they put in an awful lot of effort in our daily chores and daily activities. And because of those efforts, one is able to attain a certain amount of peace and happiness, achieve certain amount of peace and happiness. But the real pain and suffering are imprinted on one's mind stream, which needs to be cleansed. But it is only the enlightened one. It is the Buddha who has the know-how and ability to actually cleanse the mind stream. That is why he is called the supreme one of the two-legged beings. Buddha is supreme because Buddha has what may be called the discriminating wisdom. Para as being beyond samsaric wisdom. Because Buddha has shown us how to purify the mental afflictive emotions. The Buddha has a great deal of discriminating wisdom, whereas sentient beings, on the other hand, are ignorant. Sentient beings aspire to have happiness and causes of happiness, but they do not know how to go about achieving those happiness and the causes of happiness. They do not desire pain and suffering, yet they do not know how to put an end to pain and suffering. So what they desire and how they go about achieving it are completely contradictory and opposite.
Tela number sanji be nadu rubake penamara be song. Are chuja zawa ma chu sem zawa chu de we ge zawa sem nang na yore ngari je de we tam che sem ge yore mang go sti go ma sem ge zo go yore sem gari ge zo go yore de pe na da mare pa ge zo go yore mare pa gari de rang ge sem ge de lo rang tak che tang ma shi de wa ta de ge jo kha kha ma shi le tri de la pe na mo ni de la mare pa de rang ge sem ge de lo ma to wa de la mare pa de tēne sēmu nāla kōrona, tātata marikpa tāga dā chādhē rē pēnā. Tēne tīne tēne tātata tōkpa chēkyu, tēne chādāngi tōkpa chēkyu yō rē. Chādāngi rē tēne tēne nyūmōpa pōpa yētā yatōngde tēne pēnā kō, tēne chōgu yō rē tī, chādāng mōngsum rē chōngu yō rē. Kyōngi mbāta mātsālo tō marikpa rē, tēne rāngi sēmu nāla tū rē. 다른 게 차당이가 쪼인 바 철로 그래. 대 차당이가 쪼인 바 철라. 대대로 니 몰랐더니 이핑 걸로 제거해.
Milarepa summed up what Dharma practice is, or what Dharma practice should actually be. It is not kind of seeping through the pages of the teachings of sublime Dharma, but rather one should be focused on the mind stream, nature of one's own mind stream. All the pain and suffering of the past is creation of one's own mind, and it shall be so in the future as well. The pain and suffering were the creations of one's own ignorance. Ignorance as not seeing the true nature of one's own mind. The root cause of ignorance is attachment. And this attachment came about because of attachment and aversion. It came from attachment, aversion, and ignorance. From attachment, aversion, and ignorance arose the 84,000 different afflictive emotions. All these attachment, aversion, and ignorance, the three of them, are the product of one's own mind. So to begin with understanding that attachment, aversion are negative is very important. Antidotal weapon against attachment, aversion is bodhicitta.
Wānglā tōmāri jāmdū tī tā kōchō tōmāri jāpsu tōmāri lābjāli xiao nē tā rāngi sēlu tsōr kōrō tē yō nā tā dāla dāngwā tā yīna chāpā chādāngi yō kāni chē dā tēne tā tā dāngi nā tēne chē gā dō tē tē yāng tsāwā dāngi tē yī nā pē nā dāngi nī rā tā tāk chē tā ngā tā jibdē ngū sū ngō tū chē nē pē rā kō dī 다음에 다저 때는 배는 다다랑 강나 제와요 들이 맞제 봐요 말이지 파마 올레 도모 보다 배지 맞제 봐요 말이지 사비 이를 때 뒤야 자체 노바체서 들이 점들이 접들로나 오늘 전에 다닝이 메리 땅아리 철산 들이 차장용 고대 땅용로 샤송나 들이 세브들 빼놓고 첫 차원을 첫 잘못해서 잡는 들이 르르 차오네 들이 셔래도 들이 생각대로 때다 딱게 동호요 들이 차오네 들이 딩앙니 들이 다상하지 냠들이나 다 조런 게 남게 샘들 대직인 뭐 열에 다 주서 본관 김치 이걸 탐지 빼는 다들이 상하게 동고 왕고 되지나 주 이전에 상계가 저래 때서 서로다 다 인도 가오리 가이나더니 이 대통제를 했지.
Before one receives empowerment, it is important to receive refuge ordination, which calls for, after that, looking at the nature of one's own mind. When you do so, then you will find that there is attachment towards nears and dears and aversion towards your enemies. And when you investigate the nature of this attachment and aversion, you will come to some revelation. What is normally considered as enemy, you will find that had in many lifetimes been your parents, boyfriend, girlfriend, etc., etc. Those who are considered as your nears and dears, they had been your enemies in former life. And you will come to this kind of realization. And when you do so, then there will be a form of equanimity. When you achieve a form of equanimity, then that will be kind of bringing a glass full of cold water and pouring it on to another container filled with bubbling hot water. A balance would be achieved, and it would be kind of warm and fuzzy feeling. So when you have that, then you are ready to be introduced to empowerment. And once you are introduced to empowerment, then you will be introduced to things like your 5 aggregates, 5 elements, and 5 sense bases are nothing less than complete purity, etc., etc. When something like this is said to you, and when you are introduced to these things, you will have a kind of mixed reaction to it, thinking that probably they are true, probably not. Kind of a mixed reaction with certain amount of skepticism and doubt.
대다원은 상하가 너도 모르고 상하 또 모르고 강래지나 카시에 빼 또목 아지 니 서워 니 빼놓고 또목 쳐보나 빼는 짝색들 짝사들 때문에 저 정모시고 쳐들 털어 파는 털어 좀 또 파고 차와야 좀 저 탐제 떠오른 거래 상하 누구도 말한 거라 띠목 쳐보 아지 쳐보 탐제들이 빼나 라장 고통 어때 줘요 아마 되게 상하 쌍 거래세.
Tantric practice is also called esoteric tantric practice, esoteric being secret. Why should tantric practice be very secretive. And that is because some peoples have a kind of very, very thick layer of ignorance. And it's very difficult to penetrate through this shield. To such individuals, if you reveal this esoteric tantric practice, and it is going to be something like pouring drops of water on a red hot iron. It's going to make a great deal of noise. And so esoteric tantric teachings cannot be revealed to those who have a great deal of ignorance and egocentric pride. Just quickly, I said egocentric pride because if I just say pride in the Western world, pride also has some positive connotation. So egocentric pride, selfish pride.
Te kare na pena di chadang yo yasona sewe de lo kha ko sewe de lo de ha ko to o chitang ge tuni ya sang ji ser sem ji thang ji sewe ya de tuni na kha ta ya cho chi bo ta tuni ye chi pa le tuni sanu ge ti na ju sem ji thang ji ye ne sem khang ge zu de o zu ya wa de pena de ba ma le o ne kam na lang ta de ji ya de ba ma le tuni sem khang ge zu ya pa de sem khang kare gyon le gyon la o le 이제는 말없나 또 봐야지 강결을 줄쳐 빠래 된다 드리게 내서 하고 그래서 좀 sem지나 드리게 강제지 오 다세는 왕들의 토마를 안 타고 그래 셀을 안 타고 오 생활하게 지다 내 강주주래 되네
So when you were able to pacify or subside attachment and aversion, this will help you to understand the real essence of the Dharma teaching. When you understand the real essence of Dharma teaching, then you will come to realization that the basic ground of the sentient beings and the enlightened beings is the same. This basic ground is something like the huge expanse of space. It is like the huge ocean. You will come to realize that both outer cosmos and inner inhabitants are the makings of one's own mind. Therefore, you will come to the conclusion that neither the outer cosmos nor the inner sentient beings are real. So mind by nature is very, very easy to transform into whatever you want to transform. Why? Because mind is unborn. It is not. It does not have an inherent existence. So when you generate, you are able to generate bodhicitta. And then you are empowered. Your mind is empowered. When your mind is empowered, because the nature of mind is that mind can be shaped in any way you want, because it is not absolute.
Sanchuk Simji Shiller, Piba Kari, oh, Simji Tamja Pama Ibashina, Chul Shulan, Chadang Topamachi, Churan, Hilipel, Chadang Topamachi, Ole. Dela Pena, oh, Chadang Topamachina, Tapaman, some Niji, some Niji Kari Pigred, oh, Tapa Sanjig Sa, Tatok Sanjig Sata, Nekam Tourism with Devan Tutanchi, some Niji Zivari Chong already. Oh, Dela Naga Pinnacle. Rinpoche tabate, Zewali Songo, Deva Tamje Zewan, oh, Pinda Devan, the Zewan, something get it, or the Tamche Ola. That is on Chok Yatola. There is some hot water, don't know your head.
So if you are able to generate loving kindness and compassion, how would this benefit you and others, you may ask? So if you generate bodhicitta, you will be treating all sentient beings as your own parents. And by doing that, you will not be generating attachment and aversion in your mind stream. A mind stream which is free of attachment and aversion means a mind stream filled with loving kindness and compassion. When you are able to generate loving kindness and compassion, ultimately it is going to help you reach omniscience. And before you do that, it is going to cause you to be reborn in any of the three higher realms of existence. And all these come about because of your love. We say loving kindness and compassion, bodhicitta, is beneficial to others, and it helps other beings and benefits oneself. It's a mutually rewarding, enlightened mind. So when you have bodhicitta in your heart, then you are ready to receive the tantric teachings or introduction to the empowerment.
Delita. Oh, Sancho Sem Zeta Gileta, Semjin Tamja Pamana Tonga Tamina. Oh, that Pamana Tonga, that Tarunga, the Zangi, Sajet, Semji, Deli, Semji Tabjela, Zangi, Ye, Dela Tangyang, Jalapenaco, Tata Vada in our Jerry. That they can't get, oh, that Jerry Penaco, Pamata Maret, Tangli Churanila, Ranila Dena. Yelita saying Juan at that, Toma Yishing, young Agra, Nanga to Juan at the Nang Numong at the Madapa Cabla Semji, Repena Tapa Cabla Yishing Agra, Bella. Ah, then you know what the Kari till your flower, Ben the couple, Maria, that you know, Shedan Chibu, Jevka, you send with the look, Kayamaji day for a Kari. Oh, yeah, then I did. I said, I'm not so middle, they cost so much. Oh, they are married, they are on you are married. That they choose now. You know, you should get the journal or the don't. Ah, pay late, how it happened at that. When you turn it, simply some jet, I just hungry. Except the chipari. Oh, tang, I got it, don't let the yard. That's a no, you see, Jay can do your chosa in our beauty, simply, Mulari don't say. Taha, lay it, ah. That took you there.
So when you generate loving kindness and compassion, you are generating because you understand that all mother sentient beings are your parents. But even then, you will perceive all sentient beings as your parents in a dualistic way. The kind of good sentient beings and not so good sentient beings. The enlightened beings up there and sentient beings down here, kind of dualism. The pure versus impure. But when you are introduced to the fact that the 5 elements, when purified, become the 5 consorts, or the 5 dakinis. That is the 5 outer elements. And the 5 inner afflictive emotions, when purified, become the 5 wisdoms. You will all of a sudden say, well, is it that easy to transform the elements and the afflictive emotions, or the afflictive emotions, into the consorts and wisdom, etc., etc.? Well, yes, it is that simple. To make this point, when you are consumed with anger, for example, at that very moment, try to meditate in the true nature of mind. And when you are able to do that, in that state, you will find that anger has completely pacified and disappeared. So you will find that very strong negative emotion, has gone, and it is completely off your radar. So you say, is it that simple? Yes, it is that simple. The anger has transformed into wisdom. And it is very, very easy to make that transformation. And when you find out through experience that it is possible to do this without a great deal of effort, you will come to the realization that all sentient beings are just like yourself with the same kind of ability. And then you will also come to the conclusion that the outer phenomena, like the cosmos, in its purest form is nothing less than a celestial mansion, and that the inner inhabitants are no less than deities.
왕들 고아니래 저기변아 올해 잡고초서라 뛰네 람잡아서 냠서 랑나 제버고섬 토바 들이 전거요 왕대 이나들이 다다 왕들라 나게 공이시 바지도 라왕이 봐 미래 라왕이 봐대 왕라지네 라왕 여봐 하고요래 다다 변아 올해 탐지 롱신 라왕 다 집에나 느주 탐지 샘그지바 샘코랑 올해 용보보마다 라왕 통 라왕 치보티는 거요래 대다다 왕은 무슨 신소나 명다라 민지죠 왕지 민지 왕들 가리래 변나 사제다 샘지지 사제는 멤버래 샘지는 마민바래 이열도 변고 초당 차롱 따와 변나 매도당 감바다와 들이 차대 요래 메이드는 메도 빼봐 카세서 사제게 용지 버튼 촉발에 샘지에서 다 동행 나봐 나초래 옆에는 동보적에 메도 따라 들이 코나 들이 민바세 탑 들이 샵 진보지 탐피라 이제 된 것도 있잖아 다 펑카 김치 탐피 것도 해 들이 민지 왕성
So it is as simple as that. As far as the word empowerment is concerned, there are two ways to introduce you to the concept of empowerment. But in short, taking refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and treating the three roots as your path and resulting in the actualization of the three kayas would be the meaning of empowerment. So when you have the freedom, or when you have managed to empower your mind, the complete freedom of the wind and mind is empowerment. One quick kind of footnote here. When we talk about wind and mind, to those who are completely new to the idea, it'll sound like, something that makes no sense whatsoever. But, this is wind and mind, the kind of, two plies of the thread. When you're talking about mind, this is very much an integral part of the teaching, especially pertinent to tantric practice. So it's not just kind of using wind and mind randomly, but it is just like that, wind and mind. Back to Rinpoche's translation. So when you have this control, freedom, and power over wind and mind, you will understand that both the outer physical phenomena and the inner sentient beings are the making of the mind. Now, I said that there are two different ways of kind of introducing you to the concept of empowerment. The second one is, we would say, empowerment is to ripen the mind stream or continuum of sentient beings. We would say the mind stream of the Buddha is ripe, whereas the mind stream of the sentient being is not ripe. Although the basic ground of both the sentient being and the enlightened being is the same, because of this question of ripe and unripe, the mind of the enlightened being is something like water, whereas the mind stream of the non-enlightened beings, sentient beings, would be like a frozen ice sheet. Or we can use the flower example. Enlightened being, fully bloomed flower. sentient being, flower, yes, but it is only a budding flower. It hasn't bloomed yet. And both the bud and the fully bloomed flower is the product of one stem, really, the same. So empowerment introduces one to one's own nature, to one's own basic ground. Introduction to one's aggregates, to the elements, etc., and to the sense basis.
真的忘了忘生忘一切这有的，忘生这边呢，路明白接人啊明白真是明白了做人，等于这边了，生活活动啊，但是我另外也是的没有呢，个一起吧就刚刚打开的，我一个人我说说那个生的嘛就了，你让就都有的，我了，我一个的了。사바는 함이 줄지와 말에 이제 코리와 말에 소소 랑그 생이 디드바다 저는 저랑 들이 상기에 돼. 그 위자제.
There are two different empowerments. One is threefold empowerment, the other is fourfold empowerment. The threefold empowerment is in order to ripen one's body, speech, and mind. Three different empowerments are given. To ripen one's body, the creation stage of the practice. The empowerment that's, to ripen the body is to do with the creation stage of the practice. Empowerment to ripen one's speech is the mantra recitation. Empowerment to ripen one's mind is to do with the completion stage of the practice. And the fourth empowerment is the essence body of the enlightened being. Essence body is attained when one completely purifies one's own mind stream. It is not an acquiring of a new mind stream, but getting rid of or purifying the obscurations that obscure the mind that was always pure from the beginningless time.
매화도 요 가와지를 뜰들 별라 르드 뭐 이제 덴바트 봐 말해 되잖아 강래들은 이제 답고랑 요왕아를 접대요 사실 매로 근데 그 요왕아 접대래 세 요왕아들 직발에 드린 뒤다다 나기 다디 제대라 나이를 봐대 다디 힘을 주고 습지 탐지에 동라 산축 습지 제수니 올해 나한테 매와 차로요래 드립변을 루드 다다 죽고이나 때 다디 가리래 다 루드 올해 이제는 닭바리에서 마다반 나와지 파장 대양 디바트 바 말에 제주 공부다 그래 내로 시방하니 루드 디디 셔로 디디 셔서나 람상 셈라 사이 것에 사이 것 셈라 종 양당양도 삼로 땅나 고발라서 보대나 셈라 샤리고 그래.
So what is ripe, what isn't ripe is dependent upon how you practice the Dharma. When you receive empowerment, we say the first empowerment to do with the creation stage of the practice means it empowers, it sows the seed for the actualization of Nirmanakaya state of Buddhahood. Tibetan word for Nirmanakaya is tulku. The etymology is tul is manifested with the connotation that it's kind of fabricated. Ku is body, manifested body, or almost sounding like fabricated body. When you say tul, there is a connotation that it is, something false is taking place. Like pretending to have something which in essence you did not. So, this physical body of ours is not real. It is composite. It is the conglomerate. It is the assembly of the 5 elements. But we have this notion that no matter how this physical body was formed, we have this notion that it belongs to me, and there is attachment and grasping. Oh, this me, it belongs, the physical body belongs to me. The me has to be now transformed. So when you have loving kindness and compassion, then the I and my, me will disappear. So the physical body is empowered so that it has sown the seed to actualize the Nirmanakaya state of Buddhahood. It has the ability, because the physical body is from the beginning, last time, it's basic, pure. But it is not real as having an independent existence. It does not. So when you detach, you dismantle this idea that the physical body is real and that it has an absolute existence, the minute when you dismantle this, then you become the deity itself in your meditation, in the creation stage. When you visualize as the deity, you actually then sow the seed for the actualization of the deity.
Dina drupzaga san kosum teya pela la yadam tamje saje chuku jasale shik channe saje tamje ge tok tsewa chibe tok kwetini chukoni longko tor de tapashin kham tamje ti la long ju zo bo ko su drupza tamje ta longko re wale de maje nguse tini lo ro soju kham de tor ko nguse jiti mela pepdi yore wale. Then simply tamje na saje the manung me kana simply saje hakko mare then chama saje kayu mishi sam simply tamje saje tamje simply kana yokdong jiti sugo ka mampo songre de yena ta ta so drupza mu de long de pen ta zo trupo ko tanga ko la te ni te yo la zongni on da ta re so sem yang da zongla te sao shan sem korang yele 메롱 동바 따르래 벨라 동반이 샤디올 사카테 싹동송 요거도 샘코랑 걸 샤들 뭐 요만이 잡송나기나 하고 차대래 사테랑 샘네 달마송 산이 셔버까블 샘 되가랑 드니 네 사테 걸은 전도요래 바도 롱걸 상제제 드니 데라 유는 뭐곰 쌀 다 땡이제 빼나 사우 셈을 유는보 곰 대곰을 선들이 마마보다 드니 제들이 가지네 사디 제야메 바셈라 드니 샬고 요래 사우 셈을 샬고래 다 되는 빼나 강리들이 이제는 게네 ngajar 사야 ngajar 강리에 되나 사 소 찍는 가서도 동반지대 열에 참와라 삼년제 매래 되는 거 상축선 뷰를 제나 사디 소는 무슨 톱들이 당아 제는 사롱 마사롱 들 사디 투소 무슨이 선이란 거잖아 돈이 이제 카바다가 사디 소의 톱들이 드니 때 땡이는 들이 아주도 가두는 들이 진가 맞아가 원래 계시의 사디 왕의 셈을 샷봐 싸워 샤면서 사디 이치때 뭐 드인 탑나 드인 탑고 요래 빼나 드니는 봐도 드니 줄이지 보자 탑고요래 드니 사디 드니 뒤용 뒤제다가 탑고요래 대변나
three kayas of the three kayas or three bodies of the enlightened being. Once you attain the Dharmakaya state of Buddhahood, by the power of Buddha's compassion and loving kindness, one can manifest as Sambhogakaya state of Buddhahood. In our visualization in the creation stage, we visualize the Sambhogakaya state of Buddhahood and their celestial Pure Land. In our practice in the creation stage, we are practicing to actualize the Sambhogakaya state of Buddhahood. Nirmanakaya, there are countless number of Nirmanakayas on this planet, for example. So there is no telling where the enlightened beings might be, because they are everywhere. So Gyalpa Rinpoche, the founder of Tigung Kagyu lineage, has categorically said that enlightened beings are in the nature of sentient beings. So visualization of the deity is important. When you are able to visualize the deity, then you will experience something called the union of clarity and emptiness. When you experience this, when you pass away from this life, and you will reach the Sambhogakaya state of Buddhahood in the Pardo stage, that is to say, after death and before rebirth. In order to do that, there are 4 things necessary in your practice: meditation, clarity, purity, and stability. Meditation is when you are doing the creation stage of the practice. Use the recitation of mantra in conjunction with your meditation. Recite a lot of mantras. So always trying to visualize the deity. Make an imprint on your mind stream so that you don't forget. That's meditation. Next one is clarity. So making an indelible imprint on your mind stream, the form of the deity. And the third is purity. This calls for, quote and unquote, deity confidence. Thinking and believing that you are actually the deity. Because you do have the emptiness part of the deity in you. So when you have a clear practice in creation stage, then you will see the clarity of the deity imprinted. And the last one is stability. A stabilized meditation is that when the meditation becomes so kind of firmly rooted that you can always kind of see the deity with your mind's eye. So if you have these four qualities, meditation, clarity, purity, and stability, then one would be able to transform this illusory body into the body of the Sambhogakaya state of Buddhahood in the Pardo stage.
Tata sar tin ta samji ta chi ba di rai ko jin chalu ra mi da ma bo yo re de holo dim to da ma go da mi da yo re te tham chi ka de de na parsin tok ta tini shiwa na pe na chok sum do je salam ge yo tin tham chi sal shar de pe na de tham chi da de re xie pa pe na mo go de myu mo na to tham chi min ra wo re de 대탐지 남도 탐지 라사를 조선은 미진 고제를 내가 그냥 지금 말해 뉴모 라사를 시선은 레사케요 말해 되게 단단하다 망보요래 되게 제는 제발함나 다리데 강말라 오 대탐지 답다래서 발신 쪽다 될라서 보통래 살띠다 소데 에지 소배
purity. Going back to purity in the creation state of the practice, when you're visualizing the deity will have different kinds of ornaments. You can actually count them, the numbers of ornaments and the costumes that the deity wears, etc. Chakra Samvara, for example, adorned with a garland of human heads. And these would be the symbol of 6 paramitas, for example. The attainment of the 13th Vajra Bhumi, for example. These different numbers would mean different bhumis, different paths, etc. A garland of human heads would, for example, symbolize the eradication of afflictive emotions and conceptual thoughts, likened to the decapitation of human heads. In the case of humans, once the head is cut off, then there's no question of that human being doing any kinds of deeds, end of the activities. And in some cases, some 6 ornaments would correspond to the 6 perfections, etc., etc.
Jerem de sawo tempo yongo na teni ha jing le yongo de jerem de men da ha de ba long da de teni pe le de ngā bāng chā māng bō dā gu dē, jē rīm dē dē bā mā tō pā dē, tēnī dā gu yō rē, tē rē tēnī ngā gā rā wāng dē, tēnī tē tam jē lā, tēnī lū lē jē rīm gōng ngā dē dē sōng nā, zō tēnī ngā dā bā kāp nī, nying gā nē nā tēnī sō yik, ngā kōr tē lā, rā pā tēnī zō tēnī tēnī sēm mā yik pā jē gō rē, tōng tam jē lū jē rīm ngā dē kāng gā tōng rē, 좀 다른 샘디 남도다 유모바 카시 샘도 장마소야 변나 저도 아메리카 최 장마소 제 마보도 천걸 대는 이 두고 나바나도 타톡은 뭐 용도 샘도 장마소 고요래 샘도 장마조는 샘 코랑 상계래 변나 올래 대 유모번 남도다 마리바 디 제주체를 르라 샘 등이지 이제 당부 라주라 대도 고요레지 대그 룽아 예수 라왕 타버레지
If you want to have a clear visualization during your creation stage, you have to seek the help of mantras. The creation visualization is like fire. Recitation of mantra is like wind. So you have to recite 100,000 mantras to make your mantra effective, to enhance your creation's visualization. When you recite mantras, you gain the independence of speech, because the speech is empowered. Your physical body is empowered to be able to visualize yourself as deity. And during the creation stage, it is very important to focus on the spinning mantra around the seed syllable at your heart center. So why do we do this kind of visualization of yourself, your physical body transforming into that of the deity and reciting the deity mantra? The sole purpose is to purify one's own mind stream. It is somewhat similar to water purification in the United States. Physical body is transformed into the deity's body. Speech is transformed into recitation of mantra. Mind is focused on concentration or samadhi. So this is how to empower your body, speech and mind.
Tani wang kachila data wang kachila ching hamching le te tamje song wang te tamje dong ji ba le ole ha de za khor da le khor go yo le de le te te za long da wang o te ya te yo le te ti ka ni ozer to de mang bo yo le dang bo la gom de ozer zhu ji te ti ge ka a sa je le chap ser sim ji tab je chap xie ke yo le de le zo so so la sam ni je ka che yo na ti chu go yo le jimchi 가는 삼년기 첨보요는 사제 탐체를 데려가도 요만 샘기는 제와요나 사제 탐체 데려가요래 사제 초바 데게 용고요래 샘기 탐체라 되니 동해가 자와 다진이 혼토를 삼년기를 고요래 소주 삼년기 지금 어디 틀어 제담 삼hinge 제라 디셈지 담제 유라 삼hinge 데다 제토고요래 데 센지 초바다 셈치 르장 워저데 데레 소주 삼hinge 제종을 두고래 데저
In some empowerments, you are given nectar. In others, you are given empowerment with a rotating mantra, beads, mala rather. And this particular when empowerment is given with a mala, it ties in with prana and a nadi and prana, subtle channels and wind, as in nadi, prana, and bindu. And also during the empowerment, especially the creation stage, we talk and we visualize lot of light rays radiating from you. And these light rays reach out to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as well as all sentient beings. The more loving kindness and compassion you have, the more intense the generation of these light rays. And when you have lot of love and kindness depicted as light rays reaching out to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and these light rays are very pleasing to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. These light rays, being your bodhicitta, are also very beneficial to sentient beings, because sentient beings have a lot of attachment and grasping, because these are the root cause of their sufferings. So when you generate loving kindness and compassion, not only is it beneficial to yourself, but the power of your bodhicitta is also going to impact sentient beings and to some extent lessen their pain and suffering.
Ini dēna dāda di wāngi tōng kusōng tōng wāng sīmzir dē tamchi tā tōga tōng dīno wāngi tōng dā kārī rī dīna di sēmī tōng tōpa tāp rīt sēmī tōng dī tō gō na sēmdā dāda dāndī chakrom chāwa chādi dē hyōgō na bēna sāmhīngi mī na dē tōng tāp yuwa mārī kēchik jīng tōng na yāng kēchik yāng dē chādāng tōpa drip rō rī bēna chādāng shūkchīmbō māyī bē namdō chūngchūng na chāri chūngchūng pāna nirpa yuwa mārī bēna rōngbā dēr chāri chūngchūng pāna pēngi yuwa rī yā namdō chūngchūng tamchī chōl lāwa rī chōlō chīmbō dē jabdēn kāmbā tamchī kōndō bē dē chādāng dē ngō nyō mā tab na dēni ñamnī kāngchī na dēkē lā rō rī dēni wānsō tamchī kī zōng shībā dēyāng sāngjī nē yuwa tamchī kārī sāngjī tamchī tamchā dē 소그 서양 산족샘마동데 담자가 책대래 드린 나주 유라 산족샘된 측면 특용도 대주요래 드린 담책대 서라메 라신 방쪽 제거를 저기 주 담책 차송데 시지요 말이지 올해 소주샘나 삼제와긴 제와데 서체송 담책들이 체송해 제바데란 투주요래 오 담책이 한번 쏘줘요 람상 코토도 촌을 람상 마시나 니자가 바르추잖아 다 담책 냠나 나 냐와 남이로 요래죠 다 담책 냠들 줄 산촉세면 산촉세면 코토고 지로 코토 코난 거 람이 셰당래 때 메도 나쁜 레벨에 메도 나쁘래 때 담책 송 마송 강라교 소시 유르라 유르 변나 해당당 가제 라소파 니자 발마 줘봐 짱마 맞으나 때냐와 그람이 해당 대리 까빠르싹 게자야 컨트롤적인 조말세도 너는 담책 탐지 락버져도 컨트롤다 차도 올래 맞지 대라소파래 대탐지 탐책에 잡고래 정말서 탐책의 정이 받아 소 가리 제와래 제와 올래 샘티 탐지를 제와요나 되니 람마다 로마다 탐책에 대 탐책이 받아 모시고래 담색 설레요는 석캡상 설레면 소 종락해요래 란동래 올래 란동 종래 이동양 종고요래 라지 예미래
Body, speech, and mind, three empowerments. And these three empowerments are given in order. These three empowerments are methods for realizing one's own mind as such, or cittata. If you need to thaw away that ice built up in your mind stream, then loving kindness and compassion is absolutely indispensable. Because a state of mind that is partially obscured by obscurations, sometimes you will see the glimpses of true nature, and then no sooner you see a glimpse of the true nature, it will be obscured. So when you have conceptual thoughts arising, when you have negative emotions arising, it is important to deal with them straight away. It is easy to deal with an insignificant amount of rain or shower, but when it turns into a thunderstorm, then it's going to be very difficult to deal with. So dealing with your mind, dealing with afflictive emotions, etc. Now, after receiving empowerment, there is a thing called samaya. Tibetan word is tamchi. Etymology is tam, is tamcha, Rinpoche says, which is to make a pledge or resolution. Chi is the word. Giving your word to adhere to certain things that you are required to fulfill as obligation. So whoever is able to remain within the confines of these obligations will have freedom and have complete control over, will have gained the full benefit of receiving empowerment. The breakage of samaya means it is something like breaking the thread which holds together all your mala beads. When the samaya is broken, it is not difficult to mend it within 24 hours. Whatever violations had taken place, you can mend those violations. But if you just let them be, then the violation or the breakage of samaya, broken samaya, means facing the hell realm. Anger, for example, the nature of anger is hell. And the seed is hell and the fruit is hell. Just as if you sow a black seed, flower seed, you can expect to see a black flower. So like negative emotions like anger, jealousy, aggression, etc., you have to be very, very careful in your effort to observe the samaya. Have to be very careful to ensure that you do not lose love and kindness, bodhicitta. When you have bodhicitta towards all sentient beings include lama as well as disciples. When you have loving kindness and compassion towards sentient beings, that is your samaya between disciple and lama, and a disciple with disciples. When the samaya is not broken, when the samaya is intact, and it is a win-win situation, and above everybody else, oneself will be the winner. And keeping samaya has a dual purpose of benefiting yourself as well as others.
Shela Denise Angata take the bela, Samayam Bende, song pay, Mambo Yore, one real time take the re yore. Daytime just third dinner, Tini really get the little Mambo do it, time just third dinner, Tawa Nada excellent do yore. Nada some don't carry it dinner. Teen Nangnia Benako, Tinto Chukuro Badi. Tinto Ishiropa, Tokutam Sek, the Chipolan de Viore. The Karianaje, oh, no one like you but Zog Latine, Chadang Topa Majet, Zog them all, Zog not on Goret, Dalatine, Chadang Topa Majet tablet. Tetam Zogla Dadi Latine, Chadang Topa Majena, oh. Same Korang, Matia Tonte, same Korang, Jinshi Gata, Rangas, same Rangasungu, Yoribe, Jinshi take all the Shirap Namji, Shirap Dena, oh, Zangi, Langdon Jibi, Shirap, Delatine, Jinshi Pa, Mayang Pateuna, oh, Tenit up in a Kanga, Namto, the China, the cook, the pushing meats, white to the Penarasala. Nam to tham che thorsona tini tinsi chipola dewe yore temba mayang ba chipo telete pela tata de ring jingwi lewe sungore ta jokshin sang una mena le pena shirik ra chok ma chona dele lak ba yi ma go pena ngre tan ti de de thamna ti chipo na tini ko chadang to ba chawa ni jesa yo ma gang ni shirik ra chok ma choba de rang tinsi rik pa de nyu mo bo ba Pa Numada, Namto, Gisamada, Korasa, Sindina, Mepong Chibon and a Pashing Mubo Karitana, Sama Tekdo, Betena, Chadang to what your mother, Dindi, your mother, Namto Tangela. This and I didn't keep you yacht of top tongue, she and a young. The Tepata Gomare, some Bella, Jimmy be so rebella. This had it don't the guy and the Mambo here, ole. Three Tata, the day, but three Mangdo, three the wall and the Timmy John up to talk some tape, three Tamang Mangdo Yore, same Goa Madina, same Goa, this one tick lion do Yore. The three song of Tomo. So the carry, same the something get on Madrava, Jenda, Tony, Ningi Madrava. Jinshiki, Ningi Majipa, Ningi, Jinshi Matawa. That thing in the take of all number Sanjebe, all Guy, you also do what you found, Jesse, you was Dada taking the Simgiore, Pena, all Tamje Demba in the Hoyore, Demba Yari, don't down with Demba Chishi, go with Demba something, Jerry, don't you come Dana. Didn't follow them to get Dorjet to when you come, Zonde, don't dare. Did it take me to meet him here? Sound down, Tenny. Ole. The suit here, eh? You get a summer. They Japa Sosaro, Jedakama Sumchalam do the Rupe and Tasma. Marana Jabata.
In tantric practice, there are many different kind of samayas. Each empowerment will entail you to observe, one set of obligations or requirements.